tackle this budget, describe it as a way to make new investments in healthcare, but in light of the concerns we've heard from the public, does it go far enough so that you think people will see noticeable change in service delivery during this fiscal year?
I believe they will. The investments we're making in the residency seats will add 15 more. The important piece that we started actually a few months ago, and where we have foreign trained doctors who now being attached to family practices here to give them the competency and will allow them to be able to get their Canadian credentials quicker and put them back into the field for full practice. I think also we're seeing in some of the infrastructure investments that we're making, people are recognizing that in order to recruit and retain healthcare providers, we need new and modern infrastructure, and this budget reflects that.
Your minister said today that the government is entertaining a couple of long-term care proposals above and beyond what we've heard about in Cape Breton. Is that a sign of things to come? What was the motivation behind looking at those communities finally?
Well, a number of them, what we have is a couple that are being replaced to see is there a way, first of all, is in that particular community the need there, and if there is, what does it look like? Can we add more beds to a new redevelopment process there? Also, we're in conversations with about what does that new business or funding model look like. Is it strictly a per diem one, or is some of these buildings, for example, can you have doctor's offices in a long-term care facility? Those kinds of conversations are happening as these new developments are taking place. So very similar to the model, if you look at what we're doing, which we've talked about in the Cape Breton model, is the collaborative care unit attached to that long-term care facility. My own family physician actually is in a long-term care facility now. We've seen some positive signs around admittance to hospitals, but fewer workers' comp from employees, less because they would have access to a physician there at the same time. And it also, under this new model, would allow owners and operators to look for new revenue sources at the same time, allowing us to control the cost of delivery now.
So what is the commitment? Is it to replace beds or to expand those facilities?
No, we are replacing both the one in Clare and in Mahone Bay, but it is looking at add more beds to the current complement. So not only would we replace the current complement in a new infrastructure, we would add beds associated to
So those proposals that came forward from those homes, did the department tell those homes that they were welcoming proposals, or did they just sort of do it?
No, there were a number of the ones that had been looked at being replaced a while ago. I'd met with one of them 2 years ago, I guess now. The same as dealing with some of the people from the community of Clare, where their facility was. But this has been an ongoing process around, it started out in many cases as a replacement for the current facilities. We saw this as an opportunity to potentially look at that model. Is there a way to add other aspects of care or services provided? We're also, one of them, we're looking at ensuring that we're providing a culturally sensitive small options home for children and young adults in those families who require support.
Premier, what do you make of the argument that the amount of new frontline programs and services spending for healthcare doesn't reflect the population growth that we've seen in Nova Scotia in the last year?
Well, we've continued to make huge investments, not only in frontline healthcare, but ensuring we provide more access to family physicians, build collaborative teams that people want to be in, providing new nurse practitioners. Those are all frontline care providers. At the same time, ensuring that we have to invest in the physical infrastructure as we've been doing as a government.
You've kept health spending down to about 3% most of the years since you become premier. It jumps to 6%. What was it about this year that tipped it over in your mind?
Well, we have made massive investments in healthcare as we've been going forward. There's a redevelopment that we've been doing about how we deliver primary care. We're at a stage, quite frankly, in a number of these communities where they can continue to build on the collaborative model and add more practitioners to those teams. At the same time, we had to invest in training. As you see, you would have seen the minister mention again today with the nurse practitioner position, the international competency for docs, all of those, we need the people in order to attach them. This budget reflects that we're continuing down the road of training, but also we'll be hiring and attaching to the workplaces. On top of that, we're in the midst of I would argue, that the investments that we're making in the physical infrastructure of healthcare is unprecedented in our province's history.
Premier, the NSGU just entered a release, and also some advocates were saying earlier that your government seems to be very focused on balancing the budget, and that's not doing enough to help people in the healthcare system. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say to them, sustainability matters. Being able to afford the healthcare that Nova Scotians deserve is important. At the same time, we need to be able to grow the economy. One of the things that we've been able to do over a period of time is continue to grow the population, not only through new immigrants, but attracting our own sons and daughters who see a future for themselves here. This is the third year in a row that we've seen in number growth. That also provides the vibrancy to our communities that healthcare workers will want to be in. At the same time, we're making physical infrastructure investments that have been ignored. It's not political rhetoric to suggest that. Every healthcare provider will tell you. I mean, you've all covered QE2. What didn't happen when we came into government? It's been ongoing. We've taken it on, and we need to make sure that we make those physical investments so that we can attract and retain those healthcare providers who see a future for themselves. We continue to hire almost all of the nursing grads that go through our universities. We'll continue to make sure that we advance and continue to provide supports. Nurse practitioners, which are an important part of these delivery teams, we'll continue to make sure we train them and retain them.
Speaking of sustainability, not much in there by way of climate change or climate action. What message does that send to young people and their future in Nova Scotia? Well,
we signed an actual agreement with the national government around GHG reductions. We're leading the country. We'll continue to do so. There's investment in the housing portfolio that will continue to allow individual Nova Scotians to reduce their carbon footprint. Those are all important investments. As mentioned, of implementing the Leahy report, which was forward. I forget the exact amount that was in there for this year to begin that phase. So there's lots to continue to do, and there's a commitment on our government to continue down the road to make sure that we lead the country.
Premier, does your renewed focus on health have anything to do with the hue and cry that the opposition and others have made about a crisis in healthcare?
We've continued to invest in healthcare. That's not something new for us. If you go back and look at our budgets, we've continued to make the investments. We have the ability to invest this year on a number of fronts because we have capacity, but also, more importantly, as I said to you earlier, we provide training models in a number of years to ensure that we had the people we could hire. We continue to see that happen. We're seeing positive signs of a recruitment when it comes to going out looking for international docs. We now need to find a path for them to get the Canadian credentials much quicker. We believe we provided that in Nova Scotia. It's a unique program for here. This is continuing to make sure that we meet the needs of our communities and its residents at the same time, ensuring that we're providing the kind of environment that healthcare workers want to be working in today.
So you couldn't have done it without the staff in it?
Well, we need people to be able to hire. We continue to hire the nurses that are coming out, residency programs that we're attaching into rural communities. We've increased those numbers by 15. The nurse practitioner portfolio, building some of the infrastructure where we've been able to attach family practice nurses and nurse practitioners to them are all positive parts of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Premier.
Thank you.